So today we're going to cover my race review for Cheshire Half Marathon 2023, the race where at the end I needed medical assistance. So I'm just going to recap how the race went, how I was feeling, the paces I was running and kind of the decisions I made during the race. So let's just dive into the stats and details and see my review for Cheshire Half Marathon 2023. So welcome back to the channel. So yeah, if you missed anything, obviously feel free to look back through the block. But yeah, for the last 12 weeks I've been training for Cheshire Half Marathon, which is my second half marathon of the year. And obviously on race day on Sunday I completed the race just about, and today I'm just going to do the recap. So just the headline facts and stats. I'll just refer to my Strava as I'm talking. So officially my chip time was 1:34:43. My Coros and my Strava came up with exactly 21k, so it was 100 meters short on my GPS. On the actual Strava route though, it technically says I've covered the Cheshire Half Marathon route, which is 21.16k in that exact time, so 1:34:43. But I'm taking it with a pinch of salt. My Strava came up short. That's what I generally go off is the GPS. However, you could argue that because it's a measured half marathon, it should technically be a half marathon distance at least. So but either way, it's around the same, as very similar to Cheshire Half Marathon. I have a 30 seconds I have a 30-second PB, or pretty much exactly the same time roughly. So it is what it is. It's kind of irrelevant at the end of the day. But yeah, today we're going to just quickly dive in. So in terms of how the race went, again I'll put some details and data on the screen as I'm talking. So yeah, it was a warm day. I knew that in the build up. I think it was about 20 degrees C at race start, and obviously pre-race it was around that same warm temperature. It was really comfortable to be just stood around in a vest, really quite warm. So not ideal conditions for me. I didn't want to use that as an excuse, hence probably what caused the issues towards the end. But yeah, the race started off. I set off, and the initial aim was 4:20s, which I think is 6:58 per mile. So 4:20 per k or 6:58 per mile was the initial goal. But after the first k or two, as you can see on the screen, I just settled down to more like 4:25, so just over 7-minute miles, purely on how that felt and how I felt I could basically sustain that for the duration, obviously with the heat playing a factor. So yeah, as you can see on the screen, I'm just going to refer to my screen. It was 4:22, 4:27, 4:27, 4:27 and 4:29 for the first 5. So as I set off that first 5, I said I kind of in the back of my head probably settled for 4:25-ish pace. In the back of my head, I basically decided that I wanted to get every K sub 4:30, and that would definitely get me a PB. And then obviously towards the end of the race, if I'd just paced myself properly, if I had anything left, I would try and kick on and obviously knock some more time off the PB. So the aim was just a PB anyway, not nothing special. Definitely not sub 90, and I was obviously optimistically set off at 4:20 would have been around the 1:31.5, but again, that was quite an optimistic goal depending on the temperature. So I was pretty happy with the first 5. Undulations, but nothing major, just ups and downs and a few country roads, etc. So from the elevation graph, it was pretty much downhill for the next 5. So I was hoping that again I'd at least maintain that 4:25s, 4:20s and get to halfway, and then again I'd reassess then. That's not kind of the way it went. Yeah, so for the next 5, again, it was predominantly downhill, like gradual downhill. It was nothing major, just a constant kind of gradual downhill. I hit a 4:17, 4:22, 4:22, 4:30. I think it was probably the water station, and maybe a gel I was taking on, and that rolls into that 4:32 for 10th k as well. So it was a gradual downhill. That felt like a nice little 5k. Obviously, it was, like I said, the gradual downhill helped my legs to keep rolling over. The heat wasn't massively affecting me yet. I did feel I needed that gel. I only took one with me. There was no gels handed out on course. I took one. I was going to take it around the halfway mark, maybe just after, and hopefully that would see me through. So yes, that was up to 10k, and again already by then I was starting to fade a little bit. That wasn't noticeable to me at the time. I felt like it was okay. I was starting to work. My heart rate I'd gone above threshold by this point, up to 170s. But I only had a 10k to go now, so I was happy that it was where it was. I wasn't going to slow down. I was just going to try and keep pushing on. So that was up to the 10k mark, and then from what I can recall, I think it was around the 11, definitely from the 12k mark. That's when I started to definitely feel the heat. That was when I definitely started to fatigue a little bit. My head started to overheat. My legs started to feel a little bit heavier. again, a bit earlier than I would have liked. And again, the stats and data kind of back that up. So yeah, my 11 to 15 was 4:39. That was quite a big drop off. There was a mild, again, argue with as well from the elevation. The 10 to 15 was back uphill again. So the bit I'd gained from the 5 to 10, I was now giving back from 10 to 15. So you've got to put that into account. But yeah, so I slowed down slightly. So 4:39, 4:38, 4:30, which again was back to where I wanted to kind of be. I wanted obviously initially to be all sub 4:30s, but I just didn't have it, especially with the heat. 4:39 and then 4:35 for the 15th K. And again, I was working back uphill, and then from that 15th K onwards, it was a bit of down and a bit of back up. So again, but by this point, there was no real focus on speed or time. By this point, I was literally just gritting my teeth and keeping one foot in front of the other. Yeah, so by this point, I was literally just kind of hanging on. Basically, the heat was definitely getting to me. I think we just hit that third water station, was about the 15th K. They were roughly every 3 miles just over, and every 5K just over. So on the 15K point was the last water station. So I took on a bit of water, chucked a bit over my head, tried to cool myself off, and then I realised I was just had like a 5K to go just over. So it was literally just kind of zoning out and just knocking off a K at a time. Just taking that, and then what's it, one step at a time. Don't worry about 5K to go, just get 1K done, and then it'll be 4, and then 3, and then so just that was the mindset really. So again, looking at the 15th to 20th K, it was 4:38, 4:36, and then we're going to add a small downhill, so 4:28 was obviously because of that, and then again 4:41. Again, and then that's when I was probably struggling around 18th, 19th K. 4:29 was when I tried to kick towards the end. And then the 4:53 is a bit of a disparity. That's because I didn't really stop the watch at the end. I was a bit of a wobble. I think I had at least a minute or two of not stopping my watch. So that was quicker than that, I think. Although I probably wasn't, because again, by the pictures, I was really wobbly by then. So yeah, going at the stats again, I had a real dizzy spell at about 18th K when I had a bit of blurred vision in terms of, like, you feel a bit spaced out. I don't know if you know that, but that's what I felt like. I felt a bit dizzy, a bit dehydrated, but I was still moving. And again, that's when I think it was on the back of that kicking on that 18th K was 4:28. So obviously that was a bit quicker than what I've been doing. Even though my heart rate spiked a little bit up to 170, and I think that's probably that was me emptying the tank a little bit and a bit too much. I probably should have just heeded the warning. I probably should have slowed down to like more 440s, 445s, and just rolled in. But again, in the heat of the moment, and me knowing that this was my last real kind of all effort race wise, so I wanted just to finish, and then kind of I thought I'd recover gradually, so I wanted to kick on and finish. Basically, I didn't want to slow down and just ease into the finish. I felt like I did that a little bit at Chester. I used the warm day and the fact that I had a second race, which was the Cheshire one, and my leg injury niggle all played a factor into it, so I didn't feel like I properly gave that everything I had. So this one I wanted to make sure I didn't do that. So yeah, and then obviously across the line, and obviously then last 2-3K hard effort was too much in that heat, and I'd obviously burnt myself a little bit, or pushed myself a little bit too close to the red line. And then those that don't know, obviously those that don't follow me on Strava, Instagram, I haven't watched the vlog yet. Yeah, across the line, and normally I feel a tiny bit dizzy. So after the Chester Marathon this time last year, and after the Chester Half Marathon, again those two I've generally felt a little bit dizzy. But at the marathon I stopped and sat down, and that made everything worse. I got dizzier and more nauseous. Whereas at Chester in May, I just literally grabbed my medal, grabbed my water, grabbed my goodie bag, continued to walk, and everything just faded. The dizziness, the nausea faded, and I was fine by about 5 minutes later. So that's what I tried to do here, but it just wasn't happening. I was far worse than I had been in Chester. So I literally got my medal. A lady could see I was a bit unsteady on my feet. I just obviously said, no, I need to keep moving. If I keep walking, I should be getting better. I took another maybe 10-15 steps, went towards the grass just in case, and then literally just not lost my balance, but decided to try and sit down to try and realise I was unsteady. Then my head just got dizzier and dizzier. And then, without long story short, I was sat on a grass in the sun, getting hotter and hotter. I tried to take my shoes and socks off, my vest off, just to try and cool off. I poured water on my face and tried to drink some to try and cool off. I was just getting worse and worse. I felt really, really dizzy by this point. I couldn't even sit up. I was literally lying on my back, head spinning. And at that point, I asked a close by runner just to get me some assistance. 2 paramedics came over, gave me a quick check. I was anxious to try and get home because I made plans to try and get home, and my little boy was going to a party. But they gave me basically a check my blood sugar, which was good. They checked my blood oxygen level, which was 97%, which they said was fine. My temperature was a little bit elevated, but not less than they were expecting it to be, considering the conditions and the fact I just finished the half. And my heart rate, this was probably about 5 to 10 minutes now after finishing. So they recorded my heart rate at 97. So they said that was fine. It was coming down, trending in the right direction. But yeah, so basically they moved me to a shaded area. And I just had to try to calm down. I had to try and take some water on. I took too much on and felt more nauseous, and ended up bringing it all back out. And then I literally just tried to cool off gradually, put my vest on my head, damp, and just almost as a cold compress, and cool myself off. And like I said, over the next 20-25 minutes, I started to cool down, feel less dizzy, feel less nauseous. And by about 40 minutes later, I was relatively normal. I couldn't really eat anything. I tried a bounce back, which was way too thick to stomach at that point. But yeah, so that was basically, I believe it's probably dehydration and mild heat, kind of exhaustion, pushing too much, running out of energy as well, potentially towards the end because of the excess sweating, and maybe salt. I didn't take any salt on or sodium, so maybe again that's depletion of that. But that's the kind of overview. So how do I feel? It's weird. I probably feel happy with my performance, I suppose is the word, for Cheshire. Considering the conditions and how warm it was, I feel like I probably performed better in terms of getting almost either the same time, or if you're going to use the half marathon measured route, they're actually PB'd on that course. It was slightly flatter than Chester. There's still undulations, there's still ups and downs, but it was generally a little bit flatter, and there wasn't quite so many extreme hills at Cheshire. It's relatively flat. Obviously the heat was the main contributing factor. In my head, I think if it had been say 10-12 degrees cooler centigrade, so like under 10 degrees C, which is my kind of window, generally perform better. I reckon I could have definitely gone at least 2 minutes faster, probably like 1:33 or quicker. That was, again, it's all hypothetical, it's all meaningless to me at this point. But yeah, I do feel quite happy with how I've performed. I don't think I had anything left. Obviously, again, the post-race issues confirmed that I wasn't holding anything back. Doesn't mean that was a good thing to do. I wouldn't recommend it. In future, I'm going to, obviously, when I get to, because again, I recognised it. I knew it at 12 it was getting tough, and I knew at 18 when I had a weird mini dizzy spell. That should have been the warning signs. I should have just eased off, and I think in future I will. It's not worth pushing myself that close to maximum, especially when I was by myself at a race away from home. The lessons have been learned, and I'll go into more of that in a minute. But yeah, I'm pretty happy overall with my performance. I'm happy that I performed again on the day, and them conditions, that was the best I kind of had. It's just, again, the luck of the draw on the day. If it had been cold, I could have gone quicker, but by the by. So yeah, so again, I was roughly accurate with my pacing. I set off at roughly the pace I thought was my PB of potential. I'm going to try and even get close to sub 90. I knew it was kind of optimistic, so I wasn't a million miles away from where I wanted to be, where I would have ended up being. I obviously just faded with the heat. Everything, all the metrics show that. My cadence slowed down slightly. My heart rate stayed relatively constant, and obviously my speed, again, similar to the cadence, just kind of faded slightly as the race went on. So what all this does to me just shows me that what I already knew. Basically, I'm stronger at the shorter distances. My 5k, my 10k, I believe, are stronger than my half marathon, my marathon, and that's purely through experience and kind of running those distances. I've run 5k's obviously the most over the last 10 years. I've ran 10k's slightly less than that, or quite significantly less than that, and then I've ran anything over 10 miles, oh, not even 10 miles, 15k and above. I've not run that all that often. So, and I've obviously run just a solo marathon last year. I've only run over 30k, I think, probably 2 or 3 times ever. So there was work to be done, and that's fine. That's what I'm going to continue to look at, and maybe do more longer runs, especially not just easy longer runs. I need to do more tempo and threshold work if I want to improve at those distances. I said I felt pretty comfortable, pretty strong up until the 10k mark. 12k in this heat, it started to affect me, but again, when I'm doing my training runs, 15, 16k does start to feel like a bit of a slog, and then you've got another 5k on top of that which is a hell of an extra distance when you're not kind of trained to do that. So there's work to be done on the longer distances. I already knew that, and this is just basically reinforced that. But what also happened, it was kind of not an epiphany, but a kind of a lesson learned when I was sat with the paramedic and we were just talking about stuff, and obviously I was discussing why I decided to, how did I end up like this, and how did I push myself so close to fatigue when, well, actually, what is the purpose of it? Obviously mine was to obviously hit the best time I could get, and on the back of obviously training for 2 or 3 months, and obviously and probably 2 or 3 months prior to that for Chester. So arguably for the last 6 months I've been training for a good half marathon. But actually I think she mentioned in off the cuff that one of her friends runs this event all the time, and she likes the scenic route and the picturesque course, and all I had to answer was that it probably was picturesque, and I can barely remember looking at any of the views. Obviously you just solely focus on one foot in front of the other, high cadence, looking at a group in front of you, see if you can catch them, keeping your eye on your pace and then I realised that, yeah, I'm sat here under a tent, feeling terrible, with potentially a PB, but potentially just another good effort run, and all these other people around me are crossing the line, smiling and having a kind of an enjoyable day out, and I'm not particularly enjoying that moment in time. When if I'd maybe gone 5 minutes slower, would I have enjoyed it any less? Potentially I would have beat myself up and think I haven't pushed myself, but it was basically an epiphany that if I'm going to do future races, I need to not take it so seriously. I want to get better as a runner, of course I do, but I can do a lot of this hard work and hard training within the training. And then it made me realise if I'm not going to run a race quickly at max effort, then is there a need to do any races at all? Do I want to go into a race and just jog around it? So it basically maybe take stock and maybe rethink what my plans were. Obviously next year I was just going to go ahead and book some more races, half marathon, marathon potentially, and maybe a trail race or two, and continue the way I was going this year. But I think I'm going to retake stock and review what I want to do. Do I want to enter another half marathon next year and go for another PB, or do I want to just do a time trial? Do I want to do just run for fun, etc.? So these are all things I need to now consider on the back of this. But also, actually, no decisions have been made. I'm not just going to just start jogging around and not focus on anything ever again. I've still got lots of ambitions. I want to eventually go sub 90 minutes in the half marathon. I want to eventually get below 3 hours in the marathon. Obviously, I want to get better at 5 and 10k, but I also want to enjoy my running now. So over the near future, in terms of the next few weeks to the end of the month, I'm definitely going to look at more running for fun and doing some kind of challenges and projects I wanted to do for a while, but I've not been able to because of the training. It is almost a bit more freedom now and a bit more of a relief that I've got no structured training on the horizon right now. I don't have to have a set amount of runs and this specific run at this specific pace, and I can literally just go out and have a bit of freedom in terms of running how far I want to, how fast I want to, etc. So that'll be the initial immediate future in terms of the next few weeks. And then I've got a couple of challenges and a few projects I've got planned towards this end of the year through the winter. And then towards the end of the year, I'm going to reassess, and I think I'll make a decision on what I want to do next year in terms of if I'm going to do any races, and if which ones I'm going to do, what they'll be. But I also need to consider, I don't want to be in that situation again where I'm travelling far away. Well, not far away. I'm not because basically again I finished and I wasn't able to drive. I was in no position to drive. I had no one with me, and that's going to continue to be the case. I won't really have anyone with me for all my races, so I'm going to consider that going forward. And so that's it. That's the kind of review in detail. I'm going to obviously have a bit of fun for the next few weeks, do things I want to do just completely for enjoyment, and then obviously going into the future, I'm going to focus more on in training, running longer and quicker. So I need to get more 15Ks, 10 miles at a good pace. I think I've got progress to make in that area, but again, it'll be ad hoc. It'll be within the training, but it'll be not as intensive as a full training block. It'll just be working on those distances to get stronger at those distances, and the stronger I get those distances, the stronger eventually I'll get at half, and then the stronger I am at the half marathon, then that'll hold me in good stead for the marathon. But yeah, look out for updates. I'm going to actually make decisions over the next few weeks and months in terms of what the plans are going forward into 2024. So yeah, look out for that. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for everyone that's watched all the way through this block. I do appreciate it. Thanks for all the support. Good luck with all your running. I know I know plenty of people that have run the half marathons I've run, and I know plenty of people that have got upcoming marathons, etc. So good luck with all your racing. I'll look out for how you guys are all doing. I'm going to try and get down to the Cheshire Half Marathon. I'm not running it obviously, but I'm going to try and get down, get a bit of footage, and see a few people I know. I've got Warrington Running Festival coming up I think it's next week, so look out for that as well. I'm going to vlog that, but that's going to be a very easy 10k in the end now. I was considering doing the half, but I ended up doing the 10, and now me and my brother are just going to casually jog around, which is probably dropped on perfectly, because if not, I would have been trying to probably get PB on that, and I might have repeated what I was doing last weekend. But yeah, so look out for that. Like I said, I'll wrap it up there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see everyone on the next one.